Hello and welcome to the Real Exam English podcast. In this episode, I have a super interesting chat with a Brazilian lady, Melina, who is an international law professor and researcher and has an excellent level of English. We speak about learning English in Brazil, the benefits of spending some time in an English-speaking country, and challenges with pronunciation. As Melina is currently researching the effect of eating meat on climate change, we have a chat about that too, with loads of useful vocabulary and top-notch expressions. It's a bit of a long episode, so let's get going with the questions. Firstly, I asked Melina about her experience learning English in school in Brazil.
Well, they teach English in Brazilian schools, but it's not good. So you're not going to learn to speak English if you just go to regular schools. Well, my parents, obviously, they thought it was important that I would learn English. So when I was, I think, 11 years old, they enrolled me. In Brazil, there's like many courses, English courses all over the country. So it's very easy if you want to get English classes. And then when I was 11, then they enrolled me in one of those courses. And then I think I did it until I was 16. So maybe 5, 6 years studying English. But the truth is, I didn't learn English. I don't know. I don't think I was mature enough. I found the classes like really boring. I couldn't, I don't know. After 6 years of learning English, maybe I was level A2. It was, I swear to you, I didn't learn. And then when I was in law school, so during law school, I think I was 20, 21, maybe, I just thought that I would really need it when I graduated in my professional life. So then I decided to learn. And I think that's a big thing to have in mind when you want to effectively learn something. Then there's a bigger chance that you're actually going to get it.
Yeah,
And yeah, and then I enrolled myself in one of those courses, then a different one. First one was British English, the second one was American English, but there's nothing to do with that. It's just the method was different as well. But I think that the big difference is that I really wanted to learn when I
yeah.
was 20, 21. And then by the end of 2 years, maybe, I was like speaking fluently. And yeah, so 6 years, nothing. And then 2 years, I could say that I was fluent in English because then, and I know that because there's one thing that is when you're learning a language, I think the most frightening thing for someone who's learning and it's not their native language is to talk on the phone.
Yeah.
It is, you just want to avoid it, right? So I was going to move to the US to live there for 3 months and a half, like an exchange program on my vacations, like law school vacation. I would go there. It's called work experience. And then I think I did maybe 3 job interviews over the phone and I could do it. So that's when I just realized, yeah, I can speak English.
Yeah, because
So
that's the most
yeah,
difficult thing, really, is speaking on the phone, right? Because you don't even have
yeah,
a face to be able to
yeah,
get some body language from them.
yeah, exactly. And the mouth, you see the person like speaking. This I don't know helps a lot, and yeah, that's it. So I learned English in Brazil, but when I was determined to, before that, I took courses, but it was kind of useless.
Really interesting that about the importance of motivation to learn. I think this is so relatable. I think all of us on our quest to learn another language see more improvements when we're determined to learn. You might have noticed that Melina uses the word like a lot. This is very common in the US, and as she mentioned, she spent a few months there when she was younger. Firstly, she said, there's like many courses in Brazil. So, like is often used with hyperbole, where you're exaggerating a bit. For example, there's like a million different kinds of phone you can buy. In a similar way, like can be used to emphasize an adjective. As in her second example, I found the classes to be like really boring, or I was like so happy. She also uses like in a more conventional way, saying when she went to live in the US for 3 months and a half, like an exchange program, meaning as in an exchange program or something like an exchange program. Okay, so a few different kinds of like there, and there are like many, many more too. Like, just a little correction to when she said 3 months and a half. This should be 3.5 months. This is the same for hours and minutes too, and any unit of measurement. And it's quite a common error. If it's 1 hour or 1 kilometer or whatever, then it's okay to say an hour and a half or a kilometer and a half. But for anything more than that, then you need to say 2.5 hours or 3.5 kilometers, not 3 kilometers and a half. It's not a big error at all. It just sounds a little bit clunky. Something I really liked in the answer was the expression, the truth is. The truth is, I didn't learn English. This is a great expression for admitting something you feel a bit guilty or embarrassed about. Like, I'm not really into traveling. The truth is, I've never even left my city. Another really cool expression was, I swear to you. She said, after 6 years of learning English, my level was A2. I swear to you, meaning honestly, or I promise. You often also hear people saying, I swear to God. Like, I swear to God, that was the hardest exam I've ever done. Or if you want to be really convincing, you can swear on your mother's life. As in, I didn't eat the last cookie. I swear on my mother's life. All right, a few nice options there, depending on how okay you are with blasphemy or possibly cursing your mother's life. All right, so next I ask Melina about her job in international law and whether she uses English in it.
Yes, I do. Actually, originally, I'm an international law professor. So to teach international law in Brazil, I did not use English, but I'm not only a professor, I'm also a researcher, like academic researcher. And to research, you're always going to need English. It doesn't matter the field, because the most relevant research papers, they are probably in English. If not all of them, maybe 90% of them. So it really doesn't matter. If you're going to be an academic, it can be biology, really doesn't matter. Engineering, you're going to need it to read, to understand. And then if you want to publish, like in highly ranked journals, it's going to be in English. So you're going to have to be able to write in English as well. And then I also applied for international jobs. That's why I'm in Spain right now. And then before I was in the Netherlands, so I worked at the International Criminal Court. I would have never got a job there if I didn't speak English. So English and French are the official language. I think I can say that. Yeah. And then if you want to work like in the international field arena, you're gonna need English. And then now I work for an NGO as a consultant, and every time, because it's from East Timor, so like half of the jobs are in English when the clients are UN agencies and I don't know, UN Women, UNDP. And when it's the government, the local government, then the jobs are in Portuguese. But when it's in English, usually I do it because my level of English is good. So when I have to like to draft reports and yeah, research is like my daily life. So I always do it for that. But then I have to draft reports as well. When I was at the ICC, I had to draft like legal texts. And yeah, in academia right now, I'm researching a lot about climate change and livestock and the Amazon. And yeah, so a lot of this is done in English. So I use it a lot.
Right, okay. We hear a lot about the Amazon and deforestation.
Yeah,
What is the effect of that deforestation?
well, it's bad, but not only the deforestation. I think everything that we humans are doing, we are going to a place that's probably not gonna be good. We're probably gonna reach a irreversible point that we cannot go back, and that's frightening. And of course, when we burned, or when we burn um, tropical forests or rainforests, then they do not absorb CO2 anymore, and you have like the smoke. So it's like double the effect because you release the smoke and then they don't absorb CO2 anymore. So we really need those sinks, CO2 sinks.
I guess on top of that, it's what they are replacing the forests with. I guess it's often with cattle ranches,
Exactly.
which in turn are emitting a lot of methane,
Yeah, and
etc.
plantations as well that very often they are destined to feed the herd, the cattle, and not to feed us. So that's a problem because it's not sustainable. So we should probably reduce the amount of meat we eat, and also food waste. You know that if food waste was a country, it would be the third largest emitter, CO2 emitter in the world.
Wow, that's incredible.
So yeah, the whole food system, it's really not sustainable. So when we think about livestock, meat, animal sourced foods, and food waste, so we really, I think, are going to have to rethink that really quickly. If we don't do that like yesterday, we're going to be in trouble, like serious trouble.
Yeah, and is food waste the problem of the Western world, so to speak, or the first world, or?
No, I think it's a general problem. I don't have like the statistics for each country, but I think food waste is a big problem in most countries. And when it comes to eating meat, it's not only a Western problem, but because a lot of developing countries, they also consume a lot of meat, depending on the country, of course. But yeah, there are like many papers showing that Western developed countries, they eat way more than they should when it comes to meat. So we should reduce maybe 90%. I know it's a lot, but
Yeah, so that's something practical that individuals can do, I guess, right? They can cut down on their meat consumption.
yeah. Yeah, I think that when it comes to climate action, and we think about individuals, of course, we can exchange cars for public transportation. That would help too. But when we think about the food system, it's maybe where we can do the most because, yeah, what we eat just it's not sustainable, and also food waste. I think these two things are the things that we can do that will help the most individually, I mean.
Wow, some fascinating stuff there. In the first answer, we heard a mixed conditional. I would have never got a job there if I didn't speak English. So the first part of this relates to the past. I would have never got a job there. So this is similar to a third conditional. Then the second part of it relates to the present as well as the past. If I didn't speak English. So this is similar to a second conditional using the past simple. If I didn't speak English. Okay, so this is some top level grammar usage here. If you can use this in an exam situation, the examiner will be very impressed. We then had loads of useful environmental vocabulary. She mentioned about CO2 emissions, which is the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Then that the rainforests absorb CO2, which is removing it from the atmosphere. And lastly, she mentioned CO2 sinks, which are processes or regions that absorb a lot of CO2, like the rainforest or the ocean, for example. We also had a whole bunch of vocabulary about cows. She never actually used the word cows, right? She mentioned cattle, which are cows that are kept for their milk and meat. She also used the word livestock, which refers to all animals and birds that are kept on farms, including sheep and chickens too. She used the word herd, H-E-R-D, herd, which is the collective noun for some groups of animals, a herd of cows, a herd of elephants, etc. Cattle ranches also came up. They are these huge farms of animals that are found in the Americas. She talked about meat, animal source foods, food waste, sustainability, loads and loads of super useful language there for a super hot topic. Okay, so next I asked Melina if spending time in the US was beneficial for her English.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it really depends on your level, but it's always going to be beneficial. There's no way it's not going to be beneficial. But since when I got there, I already like spoke fluently English. I just think, I don't know, I thought it was really good to get local expressions and the way people actually speak, because when we're learning, sometimes it's not that it is formal, but it is a way that people normally don't speak. So yeah, that's I think this was like the best thing for me, because already people would say, "Oh, you speak very well," and "Oh, thank you," but you can always learn. There's no way you're not going to learn. It's always going to be good for you and for your English. And then there's something, because then later, because I went to the US in 2004, 5, and then in 2000, 10 years later, I lived for 6 months in London, and then the same thing, but since I because in the US I was like dealing with people on a daily basis, with American people, and my job, I used to work in a child daycare, and I was just speaking English like every day, all day long. And when I went to London, it was for my PhD, and I would spend a lot of time like in the library researching and writing, and not really talking to people all day long. So I don't know. I think that when I went to the US, I improved more my English, let's say, I don't know, than when I was in London, because I didn't get to be with people all the time.
Yeah, you just had a lot more interactions. That's something that happens a lot, really. Like when people have a good level of English, like you, when you go to a new country, really it's about learning those local expressions.
Yeah.
Because it's even as an English speaker, I know when I went to America the first time, I was saying things and people didn't understand me because with different vocabulary. I was saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's grand," which means that's fine. But in America, no one understands what grand means in that way,
Yeah.
right? So you have to adapt your language, and then you start replacing it with the more local phrases, and
Yeah.
that's just what's necessary. And I think at a high level, that's the only thing really left to learn, right? Is like the
Yeah,
local
I think
expressions.
I'll always have things to learn. Maybe you're gonna ask about the challenges, and one challenge I think I'll have forever is with prepositions. All that, I mean, of course, I know the basic ones, but every now and then oh my God, what do I use here? Because I really find it like a hard thing to. So I'm always going to be learning not only new vocabulary and expressions, and I don't know, prepositions. I'll just have I have the impression that I'll always make mistakes.
Yeah, I suppose there's very few rules with prepositions, right? Like, so they're a
Yeah.
hard thing to remember. Always. That's a big challenge. Okay, so prepositions are a challenge. What about pronunciation? Any issues with that, or is that kind of okay?
Pronunciation. Well, I just learned that I don't know what happened to me, but I think that in English, I don't find it very challenging. It was always, it's not that it's easy, but I kind of can, it's, is the word phonetics, does that exist? Sorry.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah. of English, I don't know, it doesn't sound difficult for me to replicate and then to just say the words. And it's funny because I'm from Brazil and I speak Portuguese, and I find it really hard, for example, in Spanish. So I don't know if there's something in our brains that maybe it works better with some languages and worse with other languages. I don't know, but I think the pronunciation, I never had like a really hard time with that. Of course, sometimes if you have like, I have specific words that I cannot say
Yeah.
because and I know the meaning. I use them. And when I say, I just try to replace because I find it difficult to say.
Go on, spill the beans. What are they?
For example, I can say this word, hierarchy.
Oh, hierarchy, super hard, right?
This
Hierarchy.
one I find it really hard.
Yeah, it's that double R, I think.
It's
Hierarchy.
hierarchy, so
Hierarchy.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I find that one really hard. So okay, I'm gonna have few words that maybe they're gonna be difficult for me to pronounce, but overall, I don't find it a challenge. I think I can speak like good English in terms of pronunciation. I think maybe you can say no, you're wrong. You know.
No, no, that's great. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's super. Great answers there. We all have some words that we struggle to get out correctly. Hierarchy is one that actually features often in lists of the hardest to pronounce words, so no shame in not being able to pronounce it right. We had a lovely example of how to use a mix of past tenses in the same passage. She said, I used to work in a child daycare and I was speaking English every day, all day long. And when I went to London, it was for my PhD and I would spend a lot of time in the library. So she had used to talk about a past habit. Then the past continuous, I was speaking English every day. Then the past simple, when I went to London, it was for my PhD. And then to talk about habits again, I would spend a lot of time. So this is exactly what we talked about in the last episode, showing a range of verb tenses like this. It makes it so much more interesting. One thing that wasn't quite right was the placement of adverbs. She said, I spoke fluently English and I improved more my English. So when we have an object after a verb, like English comes after I spoke English, then the adverb goes after the object. So it should be I spoke English fluently instead of I spoke fluently English. And I improve my English more rather than I improve more my English. Again, it's only a small error and doesn't affect communication at all, but worth pointing out as a lot of people make mistakes putting adverbs in the right place. A nice idiom popped up at the end there too when she mentioned she had difficulties pronouncing some words. I said, spill the beans, meaning tell me your secret or disclose the information. Another example would be she told him to confess to the police or she would spill the beans about his crimes. Or it was supposed to be a surprise party, but John spilled the beans and the surprise was ruined. Okay, lastly, I asked Melina about her favorite word or expression.
Well, there's one that I find it curious and funny because we don't have something similar in Brazil. And I don't know, I find it funny, which is hold my beer.
Okay, can you tell the context there of when people use that?
Well, I first, I because then I realized it could have two meanings, but at first I thought it would serve just to, like, I can top that, like hold my beer. But then I realized it could be also in a sense that I'm doing something reckless, or and
Right.
then just hold my beer. And I don't know, but I just find it funny because you have an expression for something very specific that we don't have in Brazil. And I don't use it very often, but I just like it.
Nice, kind of unusual one there. So, as she said, hold my beer can have two meanings. One is when you try to do something better than someone else has just done it. Like your friend has just shot a basketball shot from 5 meters and you want to try to do it from 6 meters. You say to your friends, hold my beer. meaning, look at this, check this out. The second meaning, as Melina explained, is when you're going to do something reckless or just plain stupid, like, I don't know, jumping off a roof into a swimming pool or putting a rocket on the back of your bicycle. You'll say to your friends, hold my beer. You see this a lot in memes on social media. By the way, be careful with the pronunciation of this word memes. I hear a lot of Spanish speakers saying memes. Okay, it's not memes, it's memes. Okay, so cool idiom there. Not sure how often you'll use it. I guess it's good for all of the daredevils and adrenaline junkies out there. Okay, guys, that's all for today. It was great to hear the experiences of someone who's gone to live in other countries and the different ways that that can be beneficial. It was also fantastic to hear some of the top level English Melina used. She really has mastered the language and is a superb communicator. So thanks to Melina for taking the time to talk, and thank you all very much for listening. Remember, you can get the transcripts for this and all of the episodes on the Real Exam English website, realexamenglish.com, and you can get details of classes with me there too. Okay, thanks again. All the best. Trevor.